Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Do you guys know that moment when you're playing Age of Empires and you have a bunch of army and you're trying to attack your opponent to kill some villagers, but he goes ahead and makes a tower and you're thinking, okay, there's a tower, he must be well defended, let's just go back. Well, listen, that's not always the correct choice, and sometimes diving the tower is actually the best play. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about when to dive enemy towers, how to go about it, and what are the key things to look for. This suggestion came in from a guy from Patreon, so shout out to Jade Arrow there, and thank you so much for the suggestion. He wanted some information on 1v1s and team games, and I think it's a great suggestion. I'm going to go ahead and make the video for everyone to benefit from. If you guys want to join my Patreon and also give in your suggestions, do so. The link is in the description. Alright, so when it comes to diving enemy towers, there are basically 3 cases where you want to dive the enemy tower, and in all of the cases you basically want to avoid it and you don't want to go ahead and tackle the tower, because the tower is a pretty good defensive tool. It lets your opponent garrison villagers, it does a lot of damage, and yes, in most cases when your opponent doesn't have murder holes, you could sit under it with your military, but there's only a small space there, so you can't always just sit under it with your entire army. So with that in mind, let's take a look at the 3 cases where it's actually good to dive the tower. So the first case, I'm going to list them all out. We'll talk about them one by one. The first case is when you see him building it and you can kill his vills before it goes up 100%. This is a really crucial moment in the game because you only have a split second to decide if it's worth it to jump in and kill his vills while he's making the tower. Keep in mind that a tower is deceptively long to build. It takes a long time to build a tower, even if it's with a few vills. So if you see him just starting to place it and you've got archers or scouts, it is almost always 100% correct to run in and kill some villagers. The reason why this is correct is because even if the tower goes up, you still have a good amount of time to where you can run away. So you might get 1 or 2 hits on your military, but not much more than that. Also, if you're running away from the tower, you don't really get hit too much. So it's really, really important that if you see him just starting to build the tower, to go ahead and commit most of the time. This is the easiest case of them all. What you should be looking for in this case is targeting specific villagers. Run under the tower. If you've got scouts, target 1 villager, kill it, then move on to the second. If you've got archers, focus down his villagers that are building the tower, and you've got 2 choices. If you can deny the whole thing entirely, then spread your archers out and make sure that each of them is hitting a single villager so that you can prevent the vills from building it. If you only have a few archers and you can't deny the whole tower, then do the same thing as the scouts. Target 1 villager, kill it, then move on to the next. The idea is you want to kill villagers. You don't want to damage them to where they're at 1 HP. I'd rather kill 1 vill than damage 5 villagers down to 1 HP. Why? Because the villagers at 1 HP can still gather resources. It doesn't actually do anything if I can never kill them. And so killing the villager prevents that 1 villager from gathering resources for the rest of the game. It's completely dead. And that is, of course, the main goal. And the biggest recommendation when it comes to this case is that as soon as he's about to build it, just simply kill the last villager that you can and don't bother greeting for 1 more. As soon as it's about to go up, just simply run away and then run diagonally away from the tower. So don't run straight away because some of the arrows will actually hit you. Try to run diagonally so a lot of the shots will just miss since you're just moving at an angle. It's harder to explain this and it's more something you gotta just feel out in the moment, but it definitely works once you kind of understand how it goes. Alright, that's the easy case, but let's go on to case number 2. This is a case where the tower is already up. Most smart players will tower before they get into a drastic situation where they need to rush it down. So sometimes they have a forward gold and they're just going to make a tower to protect it. Well, you might be thinking, okay, well, there's not much more to do. There's a tower there, but there's actually ways where you can run under the tower and it's a good idea. So let's talk about when to do this and what you're looking for. So in this particular case, we don't actually want to kill the tower itself. We just want to run under it and kill the villagers. Remember, a tower is stationary, so if you see it in one area, it can't just move and it's not going to get value unless you go under it. You can just leave it there and not go under it, not go near it, then it doesn't get much value. It just keeps that one area safe. However, some people kind of, especially on defense, abuse the fact that no one's going to go under the tower, it's going to keep them safe, and they put a lot of villagers under the tower. Remember, only 5 vills can garrison under a tower at any given point. So if your opponent has 9 vills on gold and 1 tower, 5 vills garrison, 4 vills have nowhere to go. So if you can run under the tower, we're guaranteed to be able to attack at least 4 villagers. This is true for gold, this is true if they put a tower in the wood line, this is true in most cases when your opponent has a tower. He's going to have more than 5 vills around it most of the time. If he has only 5, I highly recommend you don't approach it if you can't kill the entire tower. Okay, let's go back to the case where they've got, let's say, 9 vills on gold, and you've got scouts, for instance. In this case, the best thing that you can do is run under with your scouts to try to target the remaining 4 villagers. So run under it and look to kill a villager and then run out as soon as he garrisons the villagers in his tower. There's 2 moments where you can run out and it's a good play. Either you go in and then if he realizes right away and garrisons instantly before you're able to hit the vills, simply run away diagonally again and you take 0 damage. So if you understand what you did there is you forced him to react, he reacted perfectly and you still took 0 damage. So he's got some idle time, he was forced to do something right, and you still get away with a small win, the idle time, and you lose nothing else. You can just go somewhere else with your scouts. If he makes a mistake and doesn't react perfectly, and you're able to actually hit a villager before he garrisons, then simply focus on killing a villager and then run away. In this case, you'll take some damage on your scouts as the tower will hit them a little bit, but you kill the villain in exchange. Whether or not this is worth it depends on the in-game scenario and what you want to do. If you can find value with your scouts elsewhere, then just go find the value elsewhere because it's going to be safer. But if he's like walled or well protected everywhere except near the tower, then definitely do this because it's a good way to get value with your scouts. Let's consider the situation we've got archers. If you've got archers, you can't really kill a tower, and you could try to sit under it. That's usually a pretty good idea. In this case, you can just run up to it, sit under the tower's base, and you can kind of spread out your archers so that they kind of stack under it. And if you can do this successfully, you pretty much win the game. He's not going to be able to defend the tower base, and you can just sit under there and harass all his vills. Problem with doing this on the risk is that if he garrisons vills and you sit under the tower, he can garrison 5 vills, move the other 4 out of the way, and then your archers have a hard time getting out, because if you try to run away, you're going to take a lot of damage by his tower, and he can just bring army to try to clear you up when you're underneath his tower. So it's a very risky thing, and it's something I don't often recommend. Instead, if you've got archers, what I recommend is do something similar to the scouts. Walk up to his vills on gold. When he garrisons the vills, the 5 vills out of the 9, you have to make a decision. You either commit to kill 1 vill and then run away, or if he garrisons too early, just simply run away and walk sideways or diagonal so that you don't take that much damage with your archers. It's once again just limiting the damage you take and maximizing the damage you can do if your opponent makes a mistake. Now, if we consider at this point for team games, if you remember in the first points, it's always the same. 1v1 or team game, you see someone building a tower, run under it and try to kill the vills. At number 2, it's the same kind of concept for team games, but you have more potential for damage. If your opponent only has a tower and you've got scouts on the pocket and archers on the flank, you can actually dive the gold and you can have the scouts tank. Even if he garrisons right away, the tower will hit the scouts and then the archers can kill the vills, and you'll lose some HP on the scouts, but he can lose up to 4 villagers. So in team game, you have even more potential to kill more than 1 villager. You can kill all 4 if you do it correctly. So it's a very similar concept as 1v1, except in team games, you can do a lot more damage and get away with it. Remember, the same concepts of diving in, running away diagonally, and not committing if he reacts perfectly. These are all concepts you can use in both scenarios, 1v1 and team games. Okay, the third scenario that I have is when it's already up, so it already has a tower, and you can actually take it out with your military. So in this case, you're not actually going for the villagers, you're going to go for the tower and try to kill it. The best thing you can do in this situation, and this is usually when you're either full feudal, or you have vills forward, or you're in castlage. The best thing to do in this situation is to do the exact same thing as number 2 to begin. You go under the tower to try to kill the vills. Once he runs the vills, then you commit for the tower and try to kill that. The reason we do this is to maximize the damage that we can do. We A, aim for the vills, B, aim for the tower, because if you kill the tower but he runs away with all the vills, it's not that worth it. If you kill a couple vills and then kill the tower, that's a ton of damage, and that's definitely worth it. The reason I recommend only doing this in castlage though is that in castlage you have siege, you have knights, and these units are a lot more tanky, do a lot more damage to the tower. In feudal age, even if you have scouts, full upgrades, or men at arms, you don't do that much damage to the tower, and he can easily kill you with vills, maybe some spears or defensive units, and it takes generally too long to kill the tower. So I'd only recommend doing this in castlage, and at this point it's usually quite easy to kill towers and to minimize damage. The most important thing to note for this one is to just make sure that when the vills get out of the tower, you're able to jump on the vills and kill them first. Make sure you prioritize killing the vills, because that's way more damage than just killing a tower. The last thing I want to note, that especially for number 2, where you can run under the tower and your main goal is to kill vills, always look to see how many vills he's got under the tower. It's super important. If he's got 5 vills, don't go for it. He garrisons those 5 vills, you get nothing. If he's got 20 vills, then that extends the opportunity that you have. That makes the opportunity that you have to kill 15 villagers now instead of just 4 like he's got on the gold. He's got 20 vills on woodline, 1 tower there. You can run in with all your army and you can say, okay, it's completely fine if I lose my army. I'm going to commit 100% because if I win, I kill 15 vills. If this works out, I kill 15 vills, and that is massive. So always judge the scenario based on how much you have to gain versus how much you have to lose. And in most cases, you'll be surprised if you follow the steps I talk about here, which is run in and then run away diagonal if he reacts. You can get a lot of value if your opponent makes mistakes. And if your opponent plays perfectly, you don't lose anything at all. And that is how you play some smart Age of Empires. As a last sign up before I end the video, make sure your opponent is not 2-ins before killing his towers in castlage, because he'll have murder holes and that's a disaster. Otherwise, you should be pretty good to go. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Comment, like, subscribe as always to help the algorithm and whatnot, and that's it. Peace. See ya.